We are back. Hello, hello, hello. Am I live? Let's see. Hopefully hopefully we're live. Hello. What's up, guys? How y'all doing? Yep, looks like we're good to go. Okay, going over the Dolphins, San Francisco 49ers game preview. Another game for the Dolphins. They have to win, to stay alive. What's up, Troy? How you doing? Definitely, obviously important. Dolphins they're very unlikely to make the playoffs, but in this type of season, you're really trying to still fight and show some fight out there. So that's kind of like the big thing. We'll go over some draft stuff today, too. I've been watching more and more draft prospects. I posted 2 videos now to members only that are for draft stuff. Those will get for everyone eventually, but if you want to check those out, join as a member. I got Gunnar Helm and Jack Besh, 2 of my guys in this class, big fans of them. But going over the Niners, we'll start with defensively. We can start with their defense because I think the Niners defense is actually very similar to the Texans defense. Obviously, DeMeco Ryans came from San Francisco. Feels like they've tried to keep that same philosophy. I think that will be a tough battle for the Dolphins. We clearly just saw their offense struggle versus that type of defense. And the Niners, I think, have similar talent levels on their defense side of the ball. A couple guys are questionable. Bosa and Greenlaw are questionable, but they played last week, so I kind of expect them to play again. Niners are basically on the brink of elimination, similar to the Dolphins. They're in a very tough spot, pretty much out of it. But if Bosa and Greenlaw play, those would be huge losses. But if they play, obviously it helps out a lot. Greenlaw looked like it almost changed their defense last week when they played the Rams. Greenlaw was all over the field. It really helped out Fred Warner, you could tell, because their linebacker play is going to be solid. They have, Talanoa Hufanga on the back end at safety, who I think will give the Dolphins problems. I think they'll kind of use him how the Texans used safeties last week, where they were playing like that inverted 2 look. I imagine we'll see that throughout the game. But the Niners still run, the Niners' most used coverages throughout the season have been cover 3, cover 1, and cover 4. They run cover 3 at 33% rate, something like that, and then cover 1 and cover 4 they run in the 20s. They only run cover 2 at 9%, but that usually goes up when teams face the Dolphins. So imagine you see a mix of those coverages. They run cover 3 a lot. So I would like to see personally in this game the Dolphins take some shots down the field in this one. I know we've had to really keep things short. And I've talked about in the offseason, there's a lot of things they can do to try to get back to being able to push the ball down the field. I think having a running game will be the biggest part of that. Upgrading at guard, upgrading at wide tight end, maybe even bringing a running back that can, play with a little more physicality, help your short yardage situations. But I think having a run game just really helps play action, helps slow down a pass rush, and it really allows the comfortability for the play calling and the quarterback to feel comfortable to try to throw it down the field. Because we know the Dolphins are capable of it. We've seen them do it with the best of the best with a similar unit. It's just things haven't quite gone that way this season. They've had to make adjustments, and teams are playing them a certain way. Looking forward to your draft analysis with us, unfortunately, pretty much out of it. Yeah, I've been starting to watch, I'm not holding my breath that they make it, but still getting to try to enjoy the games at the end of the season. They there's a very, very small chance, but it's not impossible at least. So it'll be but I've been watching draft prospects. Interesting class that we'll go over. Obviously, I've only watched, not everyone. I've watched a decent amount though now. And I'll get more and more film, and I'll be able to get better feelings about certain players. I don't think it's the best first round class, but I do think day 2 and day 3, early day 3, will be big for Miami in this one. Niners defense has been playing well, but their offense hasn't. Similar schemes on both sides of the ball. The Niners and Texans are actually very similar because Niners offensively run the Shanahan system. That's where Slowick's running their play calling from, and then DeMeco Ryans is from San Francisco. So they're actually very similar. So that will be, I think, and the Dolphins. I think it just comes down to turnover battle, similar to last week. Playing in Miami will help. If the Dolphins just don't have as many turnovers, I think they could have a better chance of winning. And the Niners have been throwing games away. They're not as good as they have been in the past. It is doable, yeah. I know they know in reality what doesn't matter. Both teams should know each other quite well because they run very similar systems. Yeah, definitely that's kind of the big thing when it comes to these Dolphins games. I'll be looking at the young guys and guys who will be, I think, around here next year, which we've looked at. I even started looking at some of the free agent list. There's some, I don't know, like, I don't want to get too involved in free agency because that stuff changes so much. So I'll do more free agent stuff once we get closer to that. But there are some intriguing names there right now. I think the Dolphins shouldn't be looking at like high-end, top contracts. But like last year when they added Jonnu, Aaron Brewer, Jordan Brooks, they got guys on like solid contracts that are solid contributors and should be contributors for you for a few years. I think they try to add fairly younger guys, not guys in their 30s, maybe like 27, 26, 28. Guys that you can have for a few years that are solid level players. And then draft is where you're really trying to, hit the home runs. But yeah, Niners defense, I think they will do that inverted too. So that's something to keep an eye on. That's something they can do. They like to rotate their safeties. They have some pretty good defensive back play with Ward and Travarius Ward and then Talanoa Hufanga. They have a very good nickel corner in Lenore. Diomede Lenore is a good player. I've come to appreciate your Malik Washington analysis. Dude's a beast. Yeah, I'm excited. Malik Washington's a guy I'm really excited to watch this week because with no Waddle, he should see a lot of playing time. And we're down multiple. We're down multiple people, so it will be pretty interesting. McDaniel doesn't make adjustments. I wouldn't say he doesn't make adjustments. I've seen like people saying like he's like horrible at making adjustments. I think he needs to be better at making adjustments in game specifically, but I do think he can make adjustments from like game to game. Like we've seen him make adjustments this year after like certain things weren't working. It just took him too long. So hopefully he can do better with that stuff. Does Purdy play this game? Yeah, Purdy's playing. Purdy hasn't been playing particularly well, and we can talk about the Niners offense. So 49ers have no running backs this week. Their top four guys are out. No McCaffrey, no Mason, no Garendo, and someone else I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but they don't have any of those players. So their running backs right now are Patrick Taylor, Israel Abinakanda, whatever his name is, and probably Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel will probably be one of their most used running backs. I expect they're going to throw the ball a lot in this game, especially because the Niners are coming off some like bad weather games, like versus the Rams, bad weather game, they couldn't throw the ball that well. Versus the Bills, bad weather game, they couldn't throw the ball that well. But you could tell they wanted to throw the ball because their run game hasn't been as effective. So I think they're going to try to throw the ball a lot in Miami. They still try to push the ball down the field. It hasn't been as effective for them. Purdy did suffer an injury like weeks ago that I think has limited his athleticism a bit. He can still move around, but that's hurt them. Their best weapons are George Kittle and Juwan Jennings. I know Debo's out there, but he hasn't been playing that great either. So I think Kittle and Jennings will give the Dolphins the most problems because those guys are physical guys. You got to bring tackling on them. Kittle's one of the best after the catch tight ends in the NFL. Jennings is a beast in the slot. Quick games to them. Those are things I think the Dolphins need to take down. Maybe even kind of beg them to throw the ball down the field. Let the pass rush potentially get after it because they have no Trent Williams, which is a huge. They haven't had him for weeks either. That's a big loss for their offensive line because their offensive line without Trent Williams just isn't that good. They do similar things to the Dolphins. They usually, they use the play action game. They don't have a lot of true one-on-one pass sets to really slow down pass rushes. But if you know they're going to pass rush, you can still get after it. Yeah, Purdy and Debo have been struggling. Malik Craycraft, yeah. They are the only healthy receivers. I imagine we're going to probably elevate a couple guys. Maybe Azukanma. Maybe we signed McKenzie, right? Isaiah McKenzie. I think Tyreek's going to play, even though he's questionable. But no Waddle, no Eskridge. That type of thing sucks. What's up, Grant? How you doing? Yeah, Kittle, I expect to have a pretty big game. But yeah, let me see. Yeah, so I expect lots of throwing the ball in this game, like I was saying. But I do think overall the Dolphins defense can find similar success they had versus the Texans. Because I kind of think they're kind of similar a lot with like Stroud and Purdy not playing as well as they usually have. They have a couple good weapons at wide receiver, but their O-line is kind of a weak point. The Texans didn't run the ball well on the Dolphins. I don't think the Niners will run the ball well with their running back situation. So if the Dolphins stop the run, which I expect them to, I think the Dolphins defense overall should have at least a fine, decent game as long as they're, not missing 20 tackles like they did against the Packers, which I don't think will be the case in Miami. They're probably going to miss some tackles, but not as many. So I think the Dolphins defense will do a decent enough job to give you a chance to win. It's just the offense has to play for sure better than they did versus Houston. Yeah, less turnovers is like the big thing. Take some downfield shots. I would just want to see them evolve from their previous game mistakes. Like literally just the inverted two stuff. How are you going to respond to like those inverted two looks that really got you in trouble? And then when you get cover one, because the Dolphins, 2 of their picks came versus cover one. Both Stingley picks came versus cover one. And usually they've eaten alive cover one. Can they actually hit some big shots down the field this time? Tyreek and Tua, they got to be on the same page because I think they were both at fault for those interceptions, you know? How many sacks do you think Chop Robinson's going to get in this game specifically? It's tough to say. I think, the Niners do some similar things to the Dolphins, getting the ball out quick and, slowing down pass rush just with scheme. But I think if he gets one-on-ones, like I expect him to come away with maybe a sack. He's definitely going to have a ton of pressures. Should have drafted Joe Milton. For what? For the practice squad? Sure. You did a vid on that website you wanted to take in the first. Will you do one on Graham Barton, which seems to be the pick the most fans? Yeah, maybe. I don't think I ever made a video on the receiver the Dolphins. I wanted Brian Thomas Jr. But yeah. I did post 2 videos to I've made 2 draft videos now on Gunnar Helm and Jack Besh, 2 guys I really like in the draft. I think fits for the Dolphins. One's a tight end, one's a receiver. I think both on day 2 are potential options if they want to go in that direction. They're both physical threats. Very big fans of those players. But that's what I watched. So also, it's a home game, but it starts 4:25, right? It is. I feel like the home games for Dolphins never start at that late afternoon window. It's weird. Where does this? Okay. Yeah, I think the Niners O-line can be attacked. I think they will stop the run successfully for the most part throughout the game. Dolphins' run defense has actually been quite good in recent times. Really, when they've gotten gashed, it hasn't been from run. Even when they got gashed for the Packers, they missed tackles. It really wasn't the running game that got them. Josh Jacobs only averaged 2 yards per carry in that game. Question writer. So if the Finns beat the 49ers, since McDaniel's record versus bad teams is very good, what does it say more about the Finns beating bad teams or the 49ers being that bad? I don't think this one. I think this game specifically doesn't really play into any of those types of narratives, to be honest. Just because I'll say this, the reason I don't think it plays in that narrative is because one, the Niners, they have a losing record and they're playing bad. They're still a very talented team. So to me, whether you win or lose, I don't think it really matters too much in that sort of direction. I think really it just comes down to when they play the teams that are actually very good. Can they show up? But a win obviously always can help. Gunnar Helm versus Mason Taylor. Ooh, that's tough. I really like both of those players a lot. I think Gunnar Helm is more so what the Dolphins need if I had to choose. But I would definitely take Mason Taylor too. I like Mason Taylor a lot in this draft. Jason Taylor's kid, very good player. I just think Gunnar Helm is good tight end size for inline Y. Mason Taylor is pretty small. Let me look what his size is. But I like both a lot. I think he would be pretty nice as a football player, but what's he listed at? I guess they're around the same size. Never mind. I don't know why I thought Taylor was smaller. But yeah, I like both. I think both are willing to block. Both can play in line. I just think Helm's probably a better inline blocker right now than Taylor. Taylor does a better job, I think, blocking on the outside. Both are good receivers. Get open, can make plays after the catch. I just think maybe I have Helm a little bit higher right now, but I like both a lot. Yeah. I don't know why I thought Taylor was smaller. Maybe it was just something. I thought maybe I read his weight wrong in the past, but yeah, they're around the same size. But I like the whole time. I like Helm. I like Warren a lot. I like Mason Taylor a lot. I like Loveland and Fannin Jr. too. I just think they're probably different styles. There's a lot of different style tight ends. Terrence Ferguson's a good player later. Bearingstool from Clemson I like too, but he's more of a receiving tight end. Tight end class is very good. Definitely one of my favorite positions so far watching. But I like both Helm and Mason Taylor in day 2. Does Wynn play this week? I've seen people talking about it. It looks like Wynn might get an opportunity this week. Even from like Eichenberg's interview, it seemed like he's like, I didn't play well enough. I would like to see Isaiah Wynn this week. He hasn't played in a long time, so I don't know if it's going to be as good as people are expecting, but it would be interesting. I like Harold Fannin a lot too. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being the best tight end from that draft class. And he can do some blocking as well. Let me look up. I think it's just I see more Harold Fannin as like I see him as like a guy that can be Fannin's 6'4", 230. Like I see him kind of as like a Jonnu Smith and Isaiah Likely type. But like can be like one of the best at that in the NFL. Like he's a very good receiving threat. It's just I think the Dolphins are looking more for like a true inline player. I think Fannin can give you inline reps, but he's really more of like great threat after the catch, win for like you like Jonnu would. But yeah, he's another guy that I wouldn't be mad drafting as a tight end because he's going to be very good in the NFL. Honestly, I think if the Dolphins could run the ball at all offensively this week, I would feel so much more confident in this game because right now I'm just like 50-50 on it. I could see it going either way. I don't really have a strong opinion on who's going to win this. Both teams have kind of been struggling and playing inconsistently. I guess you probably give the Dolphins the edge just because it's at home, but I think if it was in San Francisco, I'd give the Niners the edge. It's always tough when you have to go from West Coast to East Coast, East Coast to West Coast. But if the Dolphins could run the ball, I'd feel so much more confident in the offense, finding some consistency. I think teams are showing and really adapting on how, like, clearly the Texans showed a game plan on how to, slow down the offense and what they've been doing this year. If they could run the ball, I feel like they would find so much more consistency. Which draft site to use for reference? I've been just going on Google. Usually I just open up PFF's, I think, PFF. I usually just pull up their big board and I just kind of go down the line for players and just go through position. But I feel like their big board's a little bit off, but it's hard to find a good one right now because they're not constantly updating. I think this was more of like their pre this year big board, and they've kind of updated it. So sometimes there's guys that are missing. Yeah, Ryan Gadsden the third. Yeah, he is a very tall. He is more of a big slot receiver than a tight end. Day 3 guy, in my opinion, definitely can make some like highlight acrobatic catches. Like I think his dad. I'm guessing it's his dad. Did for Miami. But he's not like the type of tight end I think the Dolphins should be looking for, personally. I guess they could take both types, but that would be more of a day 3 pick somewhere. Right, in one of your videos, you said you resigned Eichenberg as a backup. How well did that go? Did you get a lot of hate for saying that? For saying he's a backup? Not really. Most people think he's not even like an NFL level player. So most people are like maybe being like he shouldn't even play on a team, which is funny. I just think, he's fine as a backup. He shouldn't be your starter. And I think most people are down with that take, at least for the most part. Yeah, I think the Niners defensive backs, I think with the Niners DBs, which is overall a pretty good unit, and their linebackers with like Warner and especially if Greenlaw plays, I think that's going to give the Dolphins passing game some trouble, especially trying to hit the middle of the field throws. So I think trying to hit some deep shots that maybe they're not expecting will be big. Still take, like the easy underneath completions. I think you should start the game like taking the easy completions to Jonnu Smith. Maybe not screens, you mix in some screens, but like the ones where you just, try to have some zone beaters. And then when you kind of force them to play a little more man-to-man, start taking those deep shots. See if you can hit them. Big plays. Xavier Watts or Kevin Winston Jr.? Ooh. You're asking the big questions, Dundee, and I like it. That's a tough one. I'm going to go with... I need more film on Watts, but I think I'm going to go Watts. I really like his ball hawking skills, his instincts. Winston Jr. didn't play this year because of an injury, which sucks, but I think I read a stat that Winston Jr. hasn't missed, he like never missed a tackle or something in his career, which is insane. I don't know how true that was, but like in the film I watched, which was last year's film, obviously, he wasn't really missing tackles. He likes to come downhill, get involved. He can do some coverage stuff. I just think I want Watts to play on the back end, and I just think he's a very smart football player, and he gets turnovers. Like he has 6 interceptions, I believe, this year. I like the safety class. I've been watching guys. I think, there's obviously Malachi Starks. I like the Texas guys like Andrew Mukiba, Barron, who's like a do-it-all. Jedi Barron is a guy that can play. He plays corner, he plays nickel, he plays safety. He's played even like dime linebacker. That guy can do anything in the secondary. I really like him as a player. I like Winston Jr. as well. Let me see other safeties that I've watched, because I haven't found a ton of safety film. Ramsey is interesting from USC as well. I kind of like him. I don't think I've watched really any of the other safeties yet. Oh, there's a guy from South Carolina who's intriguing. I've seen clips on him. He's like 6'3", 220 something. Very athletic, and he makes some plays on the back end. But that's about it on the safety class that I've seen so far. But definitely some intriguing players in that group. Yeah. I like Watts. I think both of those are like day 2 players. What was I can't remember what Winston's injury was, but he's like missed the whole year, right? Was it a knee? Which that might bump him down a little bit. This is a deep class at tight end, D tackle, and safety, all needs. Yeah, that's why I'd be like totally down if those were the positions that they just went like day 2 on, or potentially like your 4th round pick. Like say in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th rounds, you have 4 picks there, because you have 2/3, a 4th, and 1-2. If you went after those 3 positions you went after those, you use 3 of those picks on those 3 positions, and the other pick could be like an O lineman or something. Depends what you do in the first round, obviously. I've watched some first round. I don't have that many first round grades so far from what I've seen. I can tell you what my first rounders are. Really the only first rounders that I have so far that I'm like sure they're first rounders are, let's see, Travis Hunter, Will Johnson, and I think Siobhan Revel Jr. He tore his ACL. I believe it was ACL. Eastern Carolina cornerback. Based on his film alone, he's a first rounder in my opinion. Like 3 corners. Malachi Starks is the only safety I have first round. I think Abdul Carter's a first rounder from Penn State. Mason Graham, Michigan. I think O-line, the only first rounders I've really seen so far are Kelvin Banks Jr. and Will Campbell. But even then, I don't love Will Campbell. I think Kelvin Banks is really good. If Kelvin Banks was the Dolphins pick and they like slid him to guard and then maybe move him back to tackle later down the line, I think Kelvin Banks Jr. is definitely one of my favorite players that I watch from Texas. I think Tyler Warren's a first rounder. Tet McMillan, Ashton Genty. That's kind of like the only guys who I'm like for sure should be first rounders. Not a ton. That's only like 13, 14. I say around 13 to 17, yeah. From what I've seen, usually it's around 21 for most teams. But this year, from what I saw, I think even Jim Nagy, the Senior Bowl director, said it. Teams have like about 15 first rounders, which honestly, from what I've seen, makes sense. But there's some underrated guys that I'm finding that I hadn't heard much hype about that I'm like, oh, that guy's good. Like this Missouri offensive lineman. Where's it? What's his name? Armand Membao. That guy's like a really good athlete. Looks to finish, really explosive. He probably he's played tackle for Missouri, but he's probably going to play guard at the next level. I love a lot of these guys in this class that are tackles that I think should move to guard. I would be down for multiple of them, like Wyatt Millum. I really like Wyatt Millum. Let's see. Like literally, let's like look at this. I for one of my like jobs, I like wrote a scouting report on Wyatt Millum. Have like a round 2 grade on him, grade 6.7, which means like he's a 3-level starter. Played left tackle. Plays with good technique to stay square with patient feet and hands out of his pass sets. He shows average athleticism at tackle. That struggles with bendy, speedy rushers where his limited range shows up on the outside. So I think he should move to the inside, but he shows good hand usage. Really like him in the running game. Very good physical toughness. Really good work on combo blocks. Attacks the low hip. displaces defenders, and then he can climb to the second level. That's probably where he's at his best. It's a nice little scouting report that I had on him. Hold on, boom, go away from that. No, I meant Armand Membu. Marcus Mbao I like too, though, from Purdue, right? He's another tackle that I think will move to inside. He might even be a center, but I really like Marcus Mbao. I'm going to have a draft video on him probably pretty early on. So far, I just have Gunnar Hellman, Jack Besh, and those are just like, members only, but those will get public soon. But Marcus Mbao I really like. He's like he's undersized for a tackle for sure, but he's like he's one of the more technical players in the class. Like, he really understands how to use his hands. And I love watching players like that just have like such a high understanding of what they do. Kenneth Grant or Alfred Collins? I haven't watched Collins yet, so I don't know. I do like Kenneth Grant, though. Yeah, I like Marcus Mbao. I have not watched Luke Kandre yet. Cam Scataboom. Scatabo would be interesting for sure in Miami if they went like day 3 running back, just because they need some short yardage stuff, and Scatabo would be fun. Whom I drafting in the first round? That's tough to say. It's so early, so like, I mean, I can just say it for like, I guess, we could do a little fun exercise. Let's say the Dolphins, I think currently we hold the 11th pick. I think that will probably change a little bit. I imagine we're probably gonna be like in the teens, like 13, 14, 15, something like that. Could stay around 11, I guess. We're not going to go up very much because the teams ahead of us, like really the only way you could go up, like the team that's like 9th is 2 games below you. So in only 3 games left, I don't imagine you could even go much higher than 10. And I don't think the Dolphins will lose out either with their schedule. But if they're picking that range, I think Kelvin Banks Jr., who would be my top offensive lineman from Texas, would be very high in that area for me. Let's see, I have notes on him. Very, like, I think he plays like with good movement skills, but he plays with toughness, good bend in his lower half, plays with nice high hand, low hand strains, which allows him to sustain his blocks and maintain control in pass pro. He shows the ability to like reset his hands and play with like good feet to mirror and match. He can create some movement in the run game. Strong outside hand makes picking up stunts look very easy. Works well on double teams, attacking the low hip and climbing the second level. I think balance was probably my biggest question mark with him at times, because I think he doesn't end up on the ground a ton, but I think he ends up on the ground a little bit too much for my liking. But he would be one. I think Malachi Starks at safety in play would be around there, because I think Starks is one of the better players in the class, but safeties tend to fall a little bit. And his film isn't as good this year as it was last year, but I still have a lot of faith in Starks. Those are players that I could see being there that they would be interested in. It's just tough because, like, trying to imagine who's actually going to fall to them. And they're around that range where, like, you start running out of first round picks. Do we draft tackle and look for them to play inside, or are you moving Paul? Oh, I would, yeah, Alfred Collins. Yeah, I've heard people talk about Collins. I knew he was like a run defensive guy, but yeah, I haven't watched him yet. I wouldn't move Paul. I would keep Paul at tackle for sure. I would keep Jackson at tackle. I think they're tackles. I think a lot of tackles in this class are guards or could play guard. Like, I think Banks is one of those that could play guard and tackle. I think Will Campbell from LSU is another one that could play tackle and guard. There's some of them like Wyatt Millam, who I think is a guard at the next level. I think, the guy from Missouri, I think Marcus Mbao from Purdue is also guys that should play on the inside. So I think a lot of them should move to guard anyways. And then you could also just take some of the guards like Tyler Booker, Miles Frazier, stuff like that. But yeah, I think Banks could potentially play guard. I think his skill set could easily translate there. It's a bit of a projection because he's only really played tackle, but I think he has like that size for it. But I also think he has the athleticism to play on the outside. Yeah, Taj Brooks, bigger running back. A lot of the running backs in this class are pretty like good-sized running backs, which is like why I'd be totally down for running back day 3 for the Dolphins. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a world where they surprise and go running back earlier than that, just because I feel like running the ball is so important to the Dolphins' success next year, and maybe they just want a guy that can take more of a workload and they can use Achane in fun receiving ways. But yeah, I don't know. That's what I figured. Yeah, I just want to check. Yeah, I don't think Paul can play guard. I don't think he's too tall for that. I don't think you're trying to. Some guys have done it, but it's very rare to move like a 6'7" guy instead. Yeah, I personally think Milam should be a guard at the next level. I think he's a little too limited athletically, and he has limited length to play tackle against like edge level defenders. But he plays with such like a nastiness in the run game that I think he can easily slide into guard and do some stuff. Malachi Starks at pick 11 or Xavier Watts at 43. Another intriguing question. I think what it really comes down to is what are my other options, you know? Like, would I end up with Malachi Starks at 11? Then who would I get at 43? Would it be like, let's see. Would even be there at 43? Would I get like one of the tight ends I like? Or then if I get Watts at 43, would I get like Binks at 11? Because then I'd rather probably do that. I'd probably go Watts at 43 in most scenarios, but it probably depends on what the other pick would be. But I wouldn't be surprised if Starks is best player available if you're at 11, just because of this draft class. I don't think the draft class is that strong at the top. I really don't. That's why I'm like, honestly, if there's a world, like say you pick 14 and like all your first round grades are gone except Ashton Genty, in most drafts, I'd be like, no, don't take the running back. I wouldn't even be that mad if they took Genty, because I think Genty's an absolute stud and they need to run the ball next year, even though I don't think running back's that big of a need. But like if he's clearly best player available, I would rather take him than reach on someone who's not that good or trade back. Ryder, what about Deion Walker? Oof. Deion Walker's tough, man. That's a tough draft evaluation. I'm probably going to do a lot more work on him because he'll have like really good reps and then not so good reps. Like he can be lazy out there, and I don't love that. Like he's insane. His ability to move at his size is insane. And I think he could have really good reps, but I just feel like it's really up and down. I don't think I would take him I wouldn't consider him personally until like round 3. And I think he'll go before that. I just think it's too big of a risk early on, and the Dolphins need to hit on their early picks. And then if you were like, okay, Walker's clearly the best player available talent-wise in round 3, then you take him, then I would be for that. Yeah. The only thing is like, I think the Dolphins where they're picking, I think Banks and Campbell, who are like the top of linemen, both could be gone. And I don't even know if like Campbell, even if you were picking there, would be the best player available with your first pick. I actually think tight end is like the ideal spot to get the second round, because some of these guys will probably get bumped up, like Loveland or Warren. I could see Loveland and Warren going like first round, but like Gunnar Helm, Mason Taylor, Harold Fannin Jr., like one of these like 5 tight ends that I really like, one of them's going to be there in the second round, because at least one. Like tight ends don't go out that early typically, and I'd be so down to take with any of them in like that 40-ish pick range. Walker will be the most RU draft pick this offseason. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, because if you watch the film, it's about as up and down as it will get. He'll be like one of the best reps you've seen in this draft season, and then it's like him not trying at all, and it's tough. But lots of players to like. I think the edge class is also pretty good in round 2. I don't love a lot of the first round edges as first round guys, but I think a lot of them, if they start falling a little bit, like I like Mike Green from Marshall. That guy can pass rush. I think Carter's the best of the bunch, the Penn State guy. He played off ball for them last year when Chop was there. Has played more edge this year. He's a good player. I think the receiver class is fine. I don't love the top of the receiver class personally. There's a lot of names here though. Like I made a video on Jack Besh that like it's up for the members right now, but you'll see that eventually. I'm a huge fan of Jack Besh. I think he's the exact, if the Dolphins go receiver, and what I think Besh probably goes like 3rd round range, maybe even 4th round. Who knows? It's hard to predict at this point. but I think he's super underrated. He's used to play tight end for LSU. Watching him beat press man, I think he's a very smart player. I think he actually gives me like Puka Nacua vibes, and they're kind of similar sizes. But he moves well, really good short area athleticism. I don't think he's going to be like a vertical threat, but playing him as like a big slot, physical, short area quickness, can get open versus man-to-man press coverage, is smart to like find soft spots versus zone, reliable hands, very good spatial awareness. Big fan of him. Isn't Mike Green a situational pass rusher? That's what he would start out as, for sure, the Marshall kid. But I think he's one of the best pass rushers like in this class, and that is always going to bring value. I mean, going into this last class, Chalk Robinson was considered like a situational pass rusher, and he is kind of still this year a situational pass rusher. Like, he doesn't play every snap, but he's shown like growth versus the run. What are your thoughts on Ramsey? Makes the jump to free safety. You're talking about Jalen Ramsey, right? Not the Ramsey that's a safety in the draft class. Kamari Ramsey? I think that's what you're asking, yeah. And the Finns look to draft and they're starting out. I think that's also an interesting move. If the Dolphins draft an outside corner and not even necessarily moving Ramsey to safety, they can move him to nickel corner, which I think they should probably do that more and more. And that's something that's happened this year already. Like, they've been pushing Kohu outside on certain reps and having Ramsey play it in the nickel. So I don't think corner is out of the realm of possibility at all in the early rounds, just because it's a premium position. And with how this first round looks, you could easily just end up falling into your lap where like, oh, our last first round grade is this corner here, and we take the corner because he's our best player available. And if Greer's the GM, he loves taking corners, so I especially wouldn't be surprised if he took corner again there. And there's some good corners in the class. Like I said, I have multiple first round graded corners, which most positions don't have multiple so far. How about the Georgia linebacker? Jalen Walker? Yes. He's a tough evaluation for me so far, because he's a tweener. He's like an outside linebacker. Like, he can play maybe Sam. He plays some off ball. He plays edge. But I don't think he's like a true off ball linebacker. I don't think he's someone that you put as like a Will or a Mike, and you're like, okay, read the, like literally process the pull and, stay square, scrape over the top. I don't think that's his play style. I think he's more of like a downhill run and chase type player. Honestly, probably will do more work as like an edge or like a guy you line up in the A gap to pass rush on third down. So to me, it's tough to be like super high on Walker. I feel like I'm a little bit, like, I think he's a good player, but I'm a little bit lower than where I've seen him put so far, because I see people have him like in the top 10. I don't think I'd probably have him like around like 20-ish in the draft prospect. So like, I like Walker, but I just don't know. You'd have to have a defensive coordinator that knows exactly how to use him, because I don't see him as a true edge or a true off ball. If Jalen Ramsey moves to nickel corner, can Needham or Kohu play safety? Well, Needham does play safety. I don't know if Kohu can. I wouldn't mind bringing Kohu back to be like your fourth corner, because he's a restricted free agent, I believe. I would like to bring Kohu back, because I think Kohu actually looked really good last week for Houston. It was probably his best game of his career. I think Kohu as a fourth corner is like good stuff, and he should be expensive. So if Kohu's your fourth corner, you probably still have Kendall Fuller. You probably have Ramsey. I think you add another corner to that group, whether he plays on the outside and Ramsey moves to nickel, or you draft a nickel. Also, that's why I like Malachi Starks, because I think Malachi Starks can play safety and nickel for you. And I think safeties that can play man-to-man like that in the slot are such huge values. That's why I'm like totally good with like Malachi Starks in the first round, because he can play multiple DB spots, can play on the back end, and then also match up versus slot receivers and tight ends, and do that stuff in the nickel for you, which is, I think nickel is one of the most important positions on defenses nowadays, because they're so involved in every phase of the game, in versus the pass and the run. They're like the most involved player every play when they're on the field. But yeah. Agreed on Kohu last week. Yeah, Kohu played it, and it was weird. Kohu had like, there was like 6 or 7 plays. I was going to make a video on Kohu. I just didn't have time to. But there was like 7 plays I found that were like really high impact value plays. And Kohu only played like 25-ish snaps in the game. So he only played 50% of the defensive snaps, which is less than usual, just because I think the Dolphins played more 3 safety looks than usual. So like, he rotated out on those plays. But he made a lot of impact plays and less snaps, which I thought was interesting. Do we all assume Holland is gone? Probably. I was looking, like, I did look through that free agent list, and to be fair, out of that free agent list, Holland is one of, like, the biggest names that's, like, on the list, and also still very young. Like, a lot of the big name players are very old at this point. Holland is, like, still under 25, which is crazy, which I think brings up his value a lot, and teams are, I feel like he's just going to get paid. And I will say, I don't think Holland is a bad player. I just think he's having a bad season, but I don't think you can pay him what he wants. I really don't. I'm sure he's probably going to go somewhere and probably play much better next year, having an off season or whatever. But I think you let Holland walk, even though safety is a huge need. So I wouldn't be surprised if they re-sign him just because safety is such a huge need. And like, if you realistically look at the Dolphins like free agent list, there's really no one outside of Holland that's going to get paid very much. So they might look at it and just be like, well, we don't really have to pay anyone else. Like, we already extended a bunch of the guys that needed extensions. Maybe they re-sign Holland with that thought process, but I think they're going to be struggling in the money situation just because they extended so many people last year. And they still might look to extend some others, who knows, but yeah. Well, Budda Baker just got 18, right? And Budda Baker is older than Javon, and I think this is like his second or third I think it's his third contract now. So I imagine Holland's probably going to ask for more than that. What is this safety tag? It's probably around that. I think it's going up because safeties started getting paid more last year than they ever have. Yeah, I can look it up. Safety franchise tag. Last year, or 2023, it was 14. Let me see. Yeah, 2023 was 14. Where's 2024? Okay, I don't see it, but like last year it was, or 2023, it was 14 and a half. So I'm guessing it's going to go up a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I think Holland's having a definitely underwhelming season, but I still don't think he's like a bad player. Sometimes good players have bad seasons, but I just don't think after this season you can afford to pay him what he's going to be wanting. Safety tag is 17. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I scrolled through them. Let me see. There's some intriguing ones that are free agents. Just like some lower level names too, like middle of the pack names. And there's names on here I recognize, but I actually don't know how well they've played since they've been in the league. Like, I definitely watched them when they were prospects. Like, I know like Jedrick Wills is a free agent for Cleveland, and he was like a high first round pick, but I don't think he played good for them. Offensive lineman. Jeremy Chin's a free agent at safety. That's a safety they could look at from Washington. He used to play for Carolina. If they want to add a safety, that's probably not going to be super expensive. Those are like the kind of signings I think the Dolphins should be looking for in free agency. Guys that are probably in like that under 10 million range, but not like super like, you know, vet minimum guys. You're looking like $5 to $9 million range per year. And there's some of them like I think like Julian Blackman from the Colts. Yeah, Trey Smith is the big name offensive lineman. And I know people are going to want him. And if he makes free agency, like, yeah, I wouldn't be mad if they threw the bag at him, but I just have a feeling he's going to get re-signed. That's why I try not to get too involved in free agency at this point, because it's like completely different by the time that it actually rolls around. Let me get rid of that. Okay. What do you think Trey will get? Trey will how old is Trey? I'm guessing he probably gets like Robert Hunt money, right? Maybe even more. That's why I think they're not gonna get him. Because like, why? He's one of the better guards in the league. Or he's older, isn't he? All right, wait now. I looked up his age and it popped up some fucking actor, but I'm pretty sure he's like Still pretty young. Yeah, he's 25. He's gonna get the bag. He's gonna get more than Robert Hunt. He's like, what did Robert Hunt get last year? 20? He'll probably, yeah, someone said, or you're saying 25 is his age. Yeah, Trey's 25. That's young as hell for a free agent. Yeah, he's gonna get, he might get 25 mil. But I imagine he'll get at least a few mil more than what Robert Hunt got per year. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, you guys have any more draft related questions or Niners Dolphins related questions, or just what the Dolphins are gonna be doing next year? And we're gonna like really get into the draft as the season. Once like the season really ends, I'm gonna start doing more like these draft videos. The film breakdowns will come out for everyone to see. I've started making them already, so and then we'll start doing like streams like this where we maybe go over like specific position groups, and then I'll probably do like actual videos where I just talk about like maybe ranks and like ranking different position groups once I get more film, because there's just some film I just can't find yet or haven't gotten yet on certain players for certain teams, so I just haven't seen enough players yet to really grade or rank them. But I'm excited once we get to that point, because I like watching different prospects and finding guys, because there's always some people that you just never read about, and then you randomly watch them like, oh, that's good. Okay. Any chance we get the RB from Boise State? I would say probably not, but I don't think it's impossible that they would after Genty. I actually think Genty will be gone before the Dolphins pick. Just usually running backs don't go that high, but I think with how this class is shaping out, someone's going to take Genty in the top 10. What are your three keys to Fins winning the game versus the Niners? I would say running the ball, both sides. If the Dolphins can find some success running the ball offensively, I think that would skyrocket their chances of winning. Obviously, limit turnovers, stop maybe forcing those throws over the middle of the field. I've seen this thing on Twitter recently where, like, you know, Tua's bit. I think it was Chris Kaufman who tweeted at CK Parrott on Twitter. He was talking about how Tua's been hinting at like he has no time pre-snap to like really process what's going on because of like how late they get the plays in, how long it takes to call, and then he has to motion people around. That sometimes they'd always get the best look. So I would love if they simplified that type of stuff. And then Dolphins defensively is, yeah, just getting after Purdy, not allowing him to escape the pocket, not allowing him to do like all, you know, that the BS where he creates a big play. Because I think if they can, you know, keep him contained, the Niners passing game shouldn't go too crazy. In terms of passing concepts, are they much different in terms of what was called last year aside from the screens? I would say the passing concepts, they still do a lot of the same stuff they did last year, but they have changed some of it. They definitely went more basic, especially with a lot of their non-play action stuff. Like their play action stuff is still very similar concepts to what they were doing last year. But I think they went like a lot more basic, like with a lot of like running like stick more often than not. Just like easier completions that you could have to the tight end. That wasn't really in the playbook last year. That's kind of like the main difference. And they're calling them just more often. But less of like, you know, the play action daggers down the field where you hit the deep dig. That's obviously still part of it. They're just not calling it as much just because they don't think they can rely on it. Where's the Santa hat, my guy, or the Krampus horns? You know, yeah. Merry Christmas. Okay, so here's the thing with Christmas. My family, you know, like the candy cane lanes. There's the neighborhoods that would go all out with Christmas lights for the first 20 years of my life. When we lived in California, that's where my house was like one of those houses, and my parents would go all out. So like I always did not like when Christmas time came around just because it was so much work just to put up some Christmas lights. And I was so done with Christmas lights because I literally saw it every year my whole life. And like our neighborhood would be packed. We would have thousands of people walking our neighborhood every night. Sometimes I couldn't even park my car in my own driveway. So it might be the Grinch. But we haven't done that in years now, thank God. Is there a play on the Prince practice squad that you should believe? I imagine it's going to be Ezu Konma and Isaiah McKenzie. I think that's who will get promoted just because we have no receivers. Or maybe even that other kid. I think there's someone named Tariq Black, but I don't really know anything about him. Let's see. Love the dedication to the tape, my brother. Appreciate you, Mario. We can talk about that real quick. The path to making the playoffs. So basically, for sure, they need the Colts to lose one game. That's a given. The Colts, in every scenario, the Colts need to lose one game. They have an easy schedule, but I think that is still fairly decent chance of happening. That's not like one I'm super concerned about. Then there comes the hard part, which is they either need the Chargers to lose their next two. The Chargers and the Broncos are the teams we'll talk about. They need the Chargers to lose the next two or the Broncos to lose the next two. And to me, you're focusing on the Broncos because the Chargers play the Patriots and the Raiders, which is they're going to win one of those games. At least one. They're probably going to win both. The Broncos play the Bengals and the Chiefs. Both games they could lose. Now, I think they probably end up winning one of them. The Bengals are not that good defensively, and the Chiefs might even be resting their starters by the last game of the season, so that could also hurt. But I think there's a world out there where they lose both. Dolphins obviously have to win out. If they don't win out, they automatically don't get in. So win out, Colts lose one, and I think Broncos lose twice. Also, I think there's another scenario where the Ravens would have to lose out that they'd get in, but I don't think the Ravens will lose out. But yeah, I think Ryder the real life Grinch, too funny. I really am. At least I was for years. Be like, fucking Christmas lights. It would take days just to get them out of our attic. And we used to have like this thing where like we had like a wishing tree on our front lawn, and we'd have like tags there, and like people would write their wishes on the Christmas tree, and there'd be thousands of wishes written and like tied up on this tree on our front yard, and people would just be standing there like, you know, like literally 30 people at a time every night. You'd roll up, and I'd be like, get the fuck out of my driveway. And I'd just be like sitting there, like clearly trying to pull in, and they just stand there, don't move. They will lose one. They aren't that good. Are you talking about Miami? Yeah, they will probably lose one. That's the biggest thing, is the Dolphins need to win out, and they probably won't. If they win out, I actually think if the Dolphins win out, I would give them like a 20% chance of making the playoffs. Because I think the other stuff is possible of happening. The Colts losing one and the Broncos losing two in a row. Like, that's possible. I think the toughest part is the Dolphins winning out. Where did you live? LOL, I never had this many people in my city. I lived in Southern California, so. Yeah, I understood your questions, Grant. Which college games are you watching, for players or just for fun? I mean, I watch them for fun, but like when I watch college games, especially like during this time of the season, I usually am just like focusing on specific prospects, especially like if I know the players. Like I know Penn State SMU is playing right now, so I will probably start watching that. I'll watch Tyler Warren. I know SMU has a player named Brashard Smith who's interesting. He's like a receiver running back that does both. Penn State has multiple guys like Abdul Carter. But yeah, I'm going to watch for prospects mostly. But yeah, if you guys want early access to all these draft videos that I'm doing, like really early access, and join the membership. I've got 2 videos up so far, and they'll be up for membership only for at least a few weeks. But yeah. I mean the Colts, but yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, that's who we're talking about, Dro. Yeah, I got you. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Feel like I didn't lag or drop frames. It's because I lowered some stuff. So I think I figured out the stream stuff because I had been lagging recently. So it says I dropped 0 frames this time, which is crazy compared to the other streams. So hopefully all of that is good from now on, because we're going to be streaming more. I like to stream a lot of the draft stuff. So thank you guys.